Hey, what's up? My name is Paul Russell Parker III. You might also know me as PRP3, the author. And if you know me by that, it's because of the books I write. If you don't know me because of my books, you might follow me because I'm an advocate. And one thing I advocate for is veterans, veteran issues, veteran rights, veteran disability issues, disabled veterans, because I'm a disabled veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I fought in Iraq back in 2003, if you can believe it. Like a lifetime, it feels like a lifetime ago. But since I am a disabled veteran and things happened in my military career, my short military, 4 years, I say career, but it's like not even a speed bump. It feels like now. I mean, it happened so quick and so fast, so long ago, but that short amount of time had a profound impact on my life. So I like to advocate for others who are veterans and who are disabled and help them because I received help and I needed help at different times and I didn't have that help and I want to help others. So one of the issues that I'm very passionate about is disability because a lot of us will try to navigate it on our own and we will make mistakes and some of those mistakes are going to cost us. Something may not ever get service connected and you may try again and it's just going to get worse. It still will not be service connected and you're just going to give up. And that's probably about the worst thing you can do is not try, but to give up. And I'm speaking from experience on that because there was a time where I would have nothing to do with the VA. I didn't want to. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to go to them. I avoided them for over a decade because I just had some bad experiences, and a lot of it was with the process of even getting service connected in the first place. It's not an easy process, and it's even harder. And when you go through it alone, especially as a layperson, because unless you had access to different things that I did not have access to, it's not going to be easy. I went in originally and put claims in while I was active duty, right before I got out, and I was service connected for issues. And this is going to kind of lead into what my video is mainly about. It's mainly about clear and unmistakable errors. Now, clear and unmistakable error is an error that someone made that is undebatable, that is like, hey, that's wrong. Anybody can see that's wrong. Anybody in the VA, anybody in a doctor's office, anybody anywhere can see this is wrong and needs to be corrected. And those things happen. Those errors happen. Those issues happen. Mistakes happen every day. And a lot of people don't know that mistakes are made. And this is kind of where I was leading into. When I first put claims in when I was active duty, I got out and I went to my local state's Department of Veteran Affairs office and said, "Hey, I just want to check in. I'm in the area. I live here. I'm a disabled veteran. Here's my decision letter from the VA. Um, is there anything you can give me for veterans fishing stuff or any information you can give me? I'm about to start school, blah blah blah." And so the person I actually talked to was a veteran service officer, a VSO at that office that gave me information about the percentage level I was at and what things I rated at that level. And they actually looked through my paperwork, the decision letter, and was like, "Hey, this is wrong." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's wrong? Hello, it's service connected. It's not wrong. It's good." And they're like, "Well, it is good that it is service connected, but it's bad because all your percentages are low, and the things that you're service connected for, and the severity of those what they say they should not be at that low rating that they assign to them." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They said, "Watch." So they went, typed up a notice of disagreement, sent it in, and they said, "You're gonna get a letter in the mail, and and you're gonna see that what it should have been originally. So I did. I got a decision letter that said, "Hey, we went through the notice of disagreement. We found that there was a clear and unmistakable error on our part, and your different issues should have been at this percentage, that percentage, and whatnot for all of them." And it went up and actually pushed me from a very low percentage to a very high percentage. And I would have never known. I was actually happy just being service connected in the first place. And I was going to walk away and live with it, Not that you're not going to live with it, but I accepted it. And I was happy with it. And I was even more happier when I found out that, hey, they did make a mistake and it should have been pointed out. But I would have never known to point it out because I'm not knowledgeable. I'm just a layperson. I don't know the terminology, what they're looking for, how they rate things, how different service-connected disabilities should be rated at the percentage-wise based on the severity of it, because I didn't know, like, how severe this was. I didn't know how severe that was for my service-connected disabilities. I didn't know if, I didn't know what they should have. I just figured they know what they're doing, and what they tell me is what it should be. And come to find out, no, there was a mistake, and there are mistakes. So a CUE, a clear and unmistakable error, I want to call it a CUE a lot, is something that someone made a mistake on that nobody can argue with. Like, that is a mistake. And sometimes people with more knowledge can help you see that mistake that you might not know existed, because look at me, I didn't know. I had no clue, and I was happy with it. There's also a negative aspect for CUEs where the VA, which I think CUEs are already rare. For a clear and unmistakable error to be seen, identified, and rectified is rare enough, because unless someone knows to look for it, it's not going to get seen, so it's rare. And what I think is even rarer is if the VA catches their own mistake, their own error, and says, "Hey, we made a mistake, we caught it, and we're going to fix it." And you might think that never happens. It does happen. A lot of you might have had an issue caught by the VA and changed to your benefit. I had something service connected for an injury while I was in the military that I still see a doctor for, an injury, residuals from that injury. It still bothers me, still affects me. So when I first got it service connected, it came back at like 0%. And I was happy because I'm like, oh, cool, that's covered now. That issue is covered. So if I ever need help for it, that VA can take care of that. So I got a letter a month or two later from the VA saying, "Hey, we made a clear and unmistakable error, and we gave you a 0% rating for that service-connected disability, but it should be a higher rating." And I'm like, "Whoa, really? You guys caught it, and you guys want to fix it? Okay, cool." I didn't know. I didn't know what it should have been at, and this was years after my original claim with the VSO, and that was cool. I said, "Hey, they caught something," and because it was something I put in years later, and I hadn't been through the disability process to get something service connected in like over a decade at that point, because I stayed away from the VA, but I started putting in claims for other injuries later on in life that he was like, "Hey, it's still bothering me." So someone else can see them. The VA can catch them. Sometimes it's going to be negative. They're going to catch something. They can catch something and say, like, you should not have been service connected. That was a mistake the doctor made. We're not going to work with that doctor anymore because they made a mistake or whatever. But we're severing service connection, or your percentage level. That 50% you got, it's going to be 10% because that's what it really should be at by the book. So that's a negative aspect about it. Positive aspect, they can find it themselves, which I think is very rare just because how understaffed and overworked they are. I didn't know or think or assume that the VA would try to go through, you know, at least recent cases and try to make sure everything was correct when they after they made their initial decision. And another thing is you can catch them. If if you're not working with a VSO or a disability lawyer, or even with a buddy who really knows their thing, their knowledge, who really knows their stuff with the VA, they can help you. But if you're not working with that person, you're not working with the VSO, you're not working with a lawyer, you're just working by yourself, you can still catch them if you know what to look for. And so you should really look and see how the VA rates certain disabilities, how they set the percentage at the severe and what severity level it has to be at and whatnot, because you can catch them. They do make mistakes. Like I said, they're overstaffed, or overworked and understaffed. So, and they're going through a lot of cases. They had to, clear logs, backlogs, and whatnot. And sometimes it feels like, since they are understaffed and overworked, that they may not be too helpful. Wherein I caught, and like I said, I like to speak from experience. That's why I make these videos, because I'm not just some person just spouting out, stuff, regurgitating what I read on the internet. It happened to me, so I'm passing that knowledge on. Where I caught a clear and unmistakable error on the VA's part. And I was like, hey, so I wrote a letter back, and I did a supplemental claim. I wrote a letter back with the supplemental claim and sent back the original evidence. And I said, hey, look, you made a decision that's wrong. And this is how the VA, and I, copy paste. I said, this is how the VA rates that disability. This is how it should be decided percentage-wise for the severity and blah, blah, blah. So I sent all that in, which was factually correct. And what happened was the VA said, well, you're doing this through a supplemental claim. And a supplemental claim is when you present new evidence. You're not presenting any new evidence. And I'm like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, what? It's not new, but it's right evidence. It's evidence you overlooked and didn't take into account the first time. And so I read on, and they're like, yeah, so we're not going to change our decision stance. So I wrote them back. I did another supplemental, and I'm like, look, here was I added like one or two more pieces of evidence that was, really stretching it. But I'm like, look, here's some new evidence. Here's the old evidence still that this new evidence is tied into that old evidence, and this shows that you made a mistake. And they came back and said, nah, we're looking at the evidence you provided, and since not all of it was all new, it's still not going to be accepted, and we're not going to change it because it's not new evidence. So I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are doing like malicious compliance or whatever. Like you're going verbatim from the book. It needs to be perfectly crossed T's and dotted I's. So I was like, okay, I'll do a higher level review. So I went and did a higher level review, and they were like, it came back and said, we agree with the VA rater examiner. You did not provide any new evidence. And I'm like, okay. Once I received that, they said, I'm trying to remember how it went, because this was a couple years ago. I believe I was able to have a phone call with them during that time if I wanted to speak to the higher level reviewer. And the higher level reviewer was like, well, I can't change anything because they are correct. You did not provide any new evidence in your supplemental. And I was like, but you guys are not looking at the actual evidence. They overlooked it in the first place. That's what's incredible to me, is that you guys are just ignoring that an error was made in the first place, since it's not new evidence. And they stuck to it. They said, yeah, it's not going to happen. So I had to eventually go to another VSO. Like I said, I haven't been to the VSO. I actually went to the same office like 10 years later, and 10 years later, I was dealing with the issue at this. Went to the same office, why not? And they wrote it up and said, "Hey, here's the mistake. Here's the original mistake." And went to a VA law judge, a board appeal, and the VA law judge was like, "Yes, it was a clear and unmistakable error the VA made on their part. It, the service connection should not have been severed. It's gonna be reinstated, and it was reinstated from the date of severance." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It had taken over a year at that. No, it was like almost 2 years at that point of going back and forth with evidence and having service connections severed, and it was a very stressful time. And what made it more stressful, what made it worse, was knowing that I was right and that what I was providing was correct, and feeling like they were going against me. Maybe to me, it felt like I was fighting someone who really didn't want to accept that they made a mistake, and they wanted to stick with it, and they wanted to basically die, die for that. Like how would you explain it? They weren't gonna, even mistake or not, they weren't gonna change their mind. So yeah, basically, that's what a clear and unmistakable error is. It's something that someone made a mistake on that is undebatable. And sometimes they will try to debate them, as you just heard from my story, but it can be rectified. So you should always look at your denial letters because, I believe most everyone gets at least one or two denial letters, depending on how many times they put in for claims and what they claim and whatnot. But if you ever do get a denial letter, look through it and try to know how the VA rates service-connected disabilities and how the verbiage that should be used and what the disability rating should be for the severity and whatnot. And if you don't think you can catch it yourself, it won't hurt to go to a VSO or even pay for a disability lawyer, because in the long run, it's better to have it service connected than not service connected, because something that happened to you while you were in the military should be covered, for the rest of your life, because you promised to serve, and and there's a promise to be taken care of physically. Where if your body breaks while you're in the military, if your mind breaks, I mean, it could be physical, it could be mental, whatever it happened, you suffered through that for your service to the country. So at the very least, especially if you've been through some of the situations that a lot of people go through, where it's very traumatic, and it doesn't have to be in combat. Trauma can happen anywhere. It can happen in a car. It could happen in an office. It could happen in a barracks room. You don't know what people go through, and you really can't be a judge of who deserves what, because trauma is trauma, and we should really more focus on just everyone receiving the help that they're entitled to, not that they deserve or what they think they should get, but disability exists for a reason, because you got hurt somehow or injured physically, mentally, somehow, some way, and it affects your way to earn and provide. Where if you would have never been in the military, you never received those traumas or injuries or ailments, you'd be way better off than you are now. So there has to be some kind of, help, whether it's through some compensation, or at least, the very least, you can have medical treatment for it. Because a lot of people, myself included, there was a point in time where I didn't have medical insurance. When I was in college back in like 2004, 2005, and you didn't need to have medical insurance at some point, but it was too expensive. I was a college student, and I had service-connected disability issues that I needed to get taken care of. The VA was there for me to go to and receive treatment for those injuries and whatnot. So it's very important that this process is done because it is helpful for the people. So yeah, clear and unmistakable errors exist. Look for them. Be on the look. Know to know how to search them out. Be mindful for them, and hopefully someone. It would really be really nice and good and positive for me if someone watching this video actually goes through their old paperwork and says, "Hey, this is a mistake. This is an error. I had someone look at it and they found that the VA was wrong, and I got service connected or a higher rating." Because that's why I do this, for my brothers and sisters and in arms who served and who are now going through what I went through. I want to be able to know that I helped someone. So if I did help, and even if I didn't help you get something service connected or a mistake found and whatnot, you know, maybe you can help someone else. Maybe you have a buddy that went through it or is going through it or is hesitant about to start the process or even hesitant they gave up, and you can say, hey, maybe you can try again, and it helps someone. It could be you talking to someone's spouse and that spouse helping their spouse, like a buddy's husband or wife helps them, talks them into going for, to have their records reviewed or their decision letters looked over again. And if I can at least do that, I would be happy, because I want all veterans to know that they're not alone in this process, and to go ahead and try, because the worst thing they can do, if you do say you have a disagreement for a decision that was made, worst case scenario, if they already denied something, worst thing they can do is deny it again. It's not gonna affect you in a negative way, but it could affect you in a positive way. So I just want you to walk away from this video thinking about that. And like I said, I have other videos where I talk about veteran disability issues. You can go ahead and look through my playlist. I have one, I think it's VA disability playlist, whatever. And you can check out some other videos there. Hopefully this video may not help you, may not help your friends, but there might be another video and that you look for and look at, and you see that, hey, that is helpful. So check them out. Tell your friends. Maybe someone can find help through it. And like and subscribe so you can see my my next video, because I'll be talking about more veteran issue and disability conversation things that could be helpful in the future. So appreciate it. Thanks, and have a good night.